Blazer fans, welcome back to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast, episode number 36. This is your co-host, John Duncan, and I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Steve Irvine. And, Steve, we got to see the green and gold one last time at the Old Gray Lady yesterday. And, you know, if people are looking at the score, if you weren't able to make it out to the scrimmage, the spring game, and you see a 6-0 final, you're probably thinking, oh, well, I didn't miss anything. But, buddy, we saw a whole lot there, and we're prepared to discuss it and deliver to the UAB fans of just what exactly we saw out of that dominant defense yesterday.
Yeah, the defense was really good, and there was a lot of individuals that jumped out, but just the depth, was kind of what jumped out to me. I mean, these guys making plays all over. A couple guys I never even heard of were making plays.
Right.
So yeah, it was impressive. Now it was kind of scripted to do that. I mean, it was there was a lot of offensive stuff that they didn't do that I think they're going to do, and I know they're going to do in the fall. And
right.
So it was a little scripted. But I'll tell you, the one thing that jumped out to me of all that was just how dominant the defensive front was against a good offensive line.
Yes.
I mean, I thought they just lined up and whipped them. And I don't think that's going to happen a lot during the fall against that offensive line. I mean, I think that's still one of the best offensive lines in the conference. But that kind of shows you how good they are up front defensively. And a lot of individuals, up front especially, that just jumped at you. I mean, I tweeted last night, and I mean it. If I am asked to do any sort of preseason all-conference balloting, I hadn't really looked at conference. Had to take a deep look at the other teams, but I'm telling you, Antonio Moultrie and Kelly Sanders are on my preseason list.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Just seeing those guys yesterday, and they were just part of it. I mean, Justin Thomas was about the same as Kelly Sanders.
Yeah.
And the other guys up front were really good, but those two to me really, really, really jumped out. I just thought they both were unblockable. And they credited Moultrie with 3 sacks and Sanders with 1 sack, and I don't know how they only had 1 sack with Sanders, but
he had more than that. Yeah,
yeah, I had him with 3 personally, but it was hard to tell because you're not tackling, so you don't know who touches him. So. But anyway, I just thought those two were two that really, jumped out to me.
Yes, and I mean, we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about the defensive line and how deep it is. And if you go back to our last 2 episodes that we put out, the preview in the spring game, scrimmage 1 recap. We've told you, Steve told you guys all along that this defensive line is deep. The defense is deep, and this is probably the best defense that Clark has had at UAB. And that's saying a lot. When you lose guys like Jordan Smith and others, and you've got guys like Kelly Sanders, Alex Wright, Justin Thomas right away coming out. These guys aren't skipping a beat. They're not going to miss a beat. These guys are talented. They're deep. It was great seeing. I texted you during the spring game, Steve. Montage Cook. I mean, that for a big guy, that guy is fast, and he was in the backfield a lot. Kevin Penn was in the backfield. Just so many guys, the 2s and 3s. I mean, it's a good problem for Reeves and Clark to have, but I mean, all of these guys can start. I mean, any of them can start. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you mentioned, especially Montage Cook. I mean, here's a guy who jumps out.
Yes.
And he might not have a chance to get on the field. Oh, excuse me. But he might not have a chance to get on the field this year, because they're so deep. I mean, that's how deep they are. And maybe he'll, work his way into that chance. And he certainly has an opportunity to do that, but he might not. And it has nothing to do with him.
Right.
It has everything to do with the other guys. And how about the play Michael Fairbanks made?
Yes, forced fumble,
I mean, he's running down Lee Witherspoon from behind. Lee Witherspoon, who might be their fastest offense, we'd have to see, once we really get to see him. He possibly is their fastest offensive skill guy. And he's making that play 15, 17, 20 yards downfield.
Right.
On just pure hustle. And so, and he's a guy that, he's going to play. He's going to be in the rotation, but, he really might be starter worthy, and he's not going to start, but that's just how deep they are. Guys,
Yes.
having guys make plays, just up and down the line there would made plays. So, and then Tony Fair didn't even play.
Yeah.
He was out, and so he wasn't even out there, and he's one of their best guys, and some people might think he's their best, certainly against the run.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even out there, and they still dominated. So that just shows you what the kind of depth they have up front and defensively.
Hey, real quick, did we figure out who was wearing number 90? Because I remember, talking with
No.
you after the game, and I was thinking that was Tony Fair out there.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. It might have been Isaiah Forte. I don't know. I didn't have time to really.
But they swap those jerseys all the time during these spring games, and just
yeah. It was they swap it out. So I'm not sure, and it could have been whoever it was. Their number might have been ripped in that color or something. They had to just put another number on them, and I'm not sure who it was. But I know it wasn't Tony Fair. Tony Fair was on the sideline, so and I saw him on the sideline. So
right.
I'm not sure who that was.
Okay. Well, obviously, 6-0 was the final. The white team beat the green team. Defense, just a dominating effort. All the way through the whole game. Matt Quinn 2 for 2 on his field goals. It was great to see him not miss a beat and make both of those kicks. He made a 24-yarder and a 37-yarder. So good for him. The offense, only 2 turnovers, as Steve just mentioned. Lee Witherspoon fumbled it once. And I'm trying to remember who threw the interception to Dempsey. Was that
it was Harrison? Yeah, it was Harrison Barker. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Threw into coverage. It was ill-advised, and Dempsey made a nice play on it. But it did. I think it did hit the receiver in the hands at one point during the whole mess.
It did. Yeah.
But yeah, that was Harrison Barker.
Yeah, but it was good to see, Johnston. I thought Johnston, he didn't play a whole lot, but he looked good. Had a really good deep ball to Trey Shropshire, and that was early on in the game, and that set up the first field goal. But how about Bryson Lucero? I mean, he looked pretty darn good. And, going into the game, we talked, and I was really expecting, Dylan Hopkins to kind of take off as that number 2 spot to, solidify it. But I mean, Hopkins still played well, especially later on in the scrimmage. He led a late drive before the spring game ended. But I thought Lucero looked really good. He looked really good on his intermediate passing, and down the middle, was able to find Rajay Johnson-Sanders a couple of times. And Steve, real quick, Trey Shropshire and Ryan Davis, had a good game, a good spring game, and we both knew what they're capable of. But how about Rajay Johnson-Sanders getting up and getting a couple of those balls from Lucero?
Oh man, and Hopkins, he got a couple from Hopkins late also. I think that that just kind of transforms. That kind of takes that. If he can do what he did yesterday consistently,
yes,
that takes this receiver group to another level. Because what they need, they're Shropshire is who he is. So we know he's not. I mean, that's the thing that we're kind of losing sight of. He's not proven over a whole season. Because he really was fairly non-existent last year until the championship game, and obviously he was incredible in the championship game, and had a couple catches yesterday that looked like the championship game. So I mean, I think he's going to be really good, but you like where you're at with him. Now he's got to step up and learn how to be the guy, the first option, so to speak. But you like where you're at with him. Love where you're at with the slot. I thought Jermaine Brown looked really comfortable yesterday.
He did.
And Ryan Davis was sensational, and he's going to be I just think he's going to have a big year. So you like where you're at with the slot. So but you're going to need the other outside receiver, and that's where Rajay Johnson-Sanders. That's where you need him. And if he can do what he did yesterday, catch the ball. One thing, he's that. I mean, with him, it's just been, he came in out of shape,
right?
Because not just because he was lazy or anything like that. He was coming off an Achilles injury, a serious Achilles injury that had set him out for basically a whole year,
right?
And so he just wasn't ready. And then since then, and now he's in great shape, but just the consistency with him just hasn't been there.
Right.
He's got to catch the ball, and yesterday he made some tough catches. He made some
did.
physical catches. He's the biggest receiver they have. Biggest body receiver they have.
Right.
And so if he can, I loved what he did yesterday, and I've heard he's done a lot of that during this camp. The one scrimmage I saw, he didn't. I mean, he didn't play well that day, I didn't think.
Right.
But consistently over at camp, I've heard he's had a really strong camp, and we saw it yesterday. And my goodness, if he can do that, this has become a pretty good receiving core. And what we didn't see yesterday was the top two tight ends weren't out there.
Right.
Hayden Pittman was on crutches, and Garrett Prince wasn't dressed, and
Right.
so you mix those two guys in there, and this could be a pretty good group. But again, I mean, I just think Johnson Sanders was one of the biggest stories of the day. I think Ryan Davis was too, but I expected that of Ryan Davis because I had seen him. For people who hadn't seen him, I think that was a huge story because he other than the ball hit him in the face.
Yeah, that was the only thing.
Yeah. But I mean, that was a weird platter. I mean, obviously Lucero got it out there and got on time, but he didn't. He turned late.
I can't remember if it was a curl or an out route, but it seemed that Lucero just got it out too quickly.
Yeah. But other than that, I'm like I even said on the broadcast that he had that one play early in the game where he dove along the sideline and almost made that catch.
Right.
And I said on the broadcast that I almost consider that a drop as good as he's been. And it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't a drop, but I mean,
he laid out for it too. And
and he almost made that catch. I mean, he really probably shouldn't have got anywhere near it, but
right.
But that's that's just how good he's been. And the catch where he had a twist back that Lucero threw and the little crossing pattern. I mean, that was a sensational catch, and then he took a big hit, and that's the one thing I liked about Sanders too. Johnson Sanders. I mean, he took some big hits on a couple of those catches and held on. So he was great. I mean, and if he can continue to do that, then again, I like where they're at receiver with that.
Yes, definitely. And I'm looking over my notes that I took from the game, and I do see where I notated that. That last drive that Dylan Hopkins led, Johnson Sanders did have a couple good catches from him. But going back real quickly to Jermaine Brown at the slot, I know you mentioned earlier he looked good. I mean, I was just impressed with Jermaine Brown. He caught every single ball that was thrown at him, and we've always known he's had the speed. So I think he's going to be great at that slot receiver position.
Yeah, and and one thing that we obviously didn't see yesterday was what they're going to do with the slot position on some other stuff with some jet sweeps, some getting the ball out quickly, just different things. They're going to moving them and just different things that he's going to fit. I mean, I think that's his as far as college football goes. I think that's his natural position.
Yeah.
And what I liked yesterday of what he did was I love the way he caught the ball because that's one thing that we really hadn't seen. They've seen it and they know, but we haven't seen it. And he caught the ball well. It wasn't just like wasn't just like making plays with his feet. I mean he caught the ball, and so I think he's going to be natural there. And Rudolph we didn't really. I
don't think he caught a pass. Yeah.
I mean he had one where he caught the ball out of bounds. That was a nice catch, but he was just out of bounds. Other than that, we didn't really see him, but we will, and and so they're going to be good there, and there's going to be times where they have probably both Samario and Jermaine Brown in the game at the same time, and and do things with them like that and put some pressure on defenses. And everybody we kind of all of us kind of come away from yesterday worried offensively about, geez, I wonder, man, they didn't score and they got dominated by their defense.
They were so vanilla, though.
That's the thing. There's so much that they've done, that they're doing, that we don't know about yet, and we won't know till the start of the season. But neither does the opposition. I mean, there's so much they're going to do that they can open this thing up. I'm excited about, to see what what they're going to do. It was just very vanilla, and that's fine. I mean, I didn't want them to show anything.
Right.
But there's a lot of stuff they can do with these guys that's going to be fun to watch.
Definitely. Now, going back to the quarterback play, I will say, we've already mentioned it when Johnston threw that very nice deep ball to Shropshire. I thought Lucero had a couple good deep balls. He did have one that probably should have been picked off by Grayson Cash.
Yeah.
But I came away really impressed with Lucero. And we know, you told us the last couple episodes that Hopkins has looked well this spring. So, we're expecting great things out of him too. But it was nice to see Bryson Lucero, kind of showing improvements on his game too. So
yeah, I mean, I thought he threw the ball well. I mean, I don't know, his numbers probably wouldn't have ended up. They didn't do stats, but they probably didn't end up great. But I just thought he threw the ball well.
he
And
did.
the thing with Lucero, we've always known that he's got the good arm strength, especially in those intermediate type routes.
Right.
He's got to be more accurate on his deep ball. He's still not there.
Yeah.
And he's got to make better decisions, and I thought yesterday, for the most part, he made good decisions. Now, it's different once you get in a game, that's just, because as much as scrimmages and spring games are they're games, but they're not a real game, and it's different, and so, he's got to make better decisions, and he's got to learn. So, I think he's making strides, and I think all of them are making strides. I mean, again, we didn't really get to see much of that yesterday. We just, it's kind of about glimpses, really. It's kind of, because especially, you're talking about, honestly, some of those sacks yesterday might not have been sacks. I mean, guys make play with their feet. Hopkins. Part of what Hopkins does is make plays with his feet, and with his legs, and kind of, Tyler Johnson a little bit, or is the same way when he's healthy. Now Lucero isn't, but doesn't make many plays with his legs. But we really didn't see be able to see the full package of what they can bring. But I just think they were solid, and I didn't come away feeling worried about the quarterback position.
No,
for sure.
And I mean, we've hit on this on previous episodes, Steve. It's hard for me for Lucero in particular, to kind of get that Louisiana Tech game out of my head and get the Louisiana Lafayette game out of my head. But I don't know, and you've discussed this, plenty of times. A lot of the well, we don't know, but some of those times that the interceptions happen in those games, I mean, that might not have been on the quarterback. That could have been on the wide receiver running the wrong route or just timing off. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just hard to get that out of my head.
Yeah, and I've always said, and I believe this: interceptions are team things. Just like a touchdown's a team thing. Just like everything's a team thing in this game. I mean, it could be a guy getting pressured, or a guy getting hit right as he's throwing, or a receiver not finishing a route, or receiver running the wrong route. Now, a lot of times I do think there were some times last year. I know there were some times last year that Lucero just had bad interceptions. Where he just didn't he didn't see a guy, he didn't read. Like his first interception in that Louisiana Tech game was all him.
Yeah,
I mean, it was he didn't see a guy, and that he should have seen. And it wasn't, now he was on the run when it happened, but still. The second one against them, I still don't know whether that was the receiver not finishing the route. Okay, I mean, to me, it looked like he was throwing a spot and the receiver didn't get there.
Yeah.
So we don't know. Now, coaches know, and because coaches know exactly what happened on the play, what the play call was, who did good, who didn't on that play. But I've always believed that interceptions are a team thing, and yes, the quarterback has to take the criticism for it, or take the, credit or whatever you want to call for an interception, because they threw the ball. But I don't know that it's not always on 100% on the quarterback. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. Going back to that deep ball that Cash should have intercepted, that was kind of a bad read and bad
Yeah,
throw by Lucero. But
yeah.
yeah,
That's a throw you can't make.
yeah,
And that's been a problem of his, and
hmm
he's got to get better at that, and he is. He's making strides. I mean, there's no
yeah.
doubt. It's certainly not an overnight thing, and
No, it's not a quick fix. Yeah.
no, it's not. And but as far as the way he threw the ball, I thought he threw the ball well yesterday.
And hell, he's a sophomore, so I mean, he's gonna grow. He'll
Right.
grow. And let's go back to the running backs. We've already hit on Lee Witherspoon. It was great seeing him run the ball. He did have that one fumble, but you do kind of go back, and that really was just a great play by Fairbanks on fumbling it, or by forcing the fumble. But I was really impressed with Justin Jones. Steve, I don't know what you thought of Justin Jones up out of Bessemer Academy. He looked really good. And I thought Titus Smith-Lindsay looked good too at the running back position. And I know these are probably, the 3 and 4 guys. Well, maybe even behind that. But
Yeah, probably
it's just
deeper
great.
than that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but they looked really good.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, I thought they ran the ball well. Now they weren't running against the top guys.
I
They're
know,
playing.
yeah.
But I mean, I've said it about Smith Lindsay before. I mean, I think that in the right situation, he could play a big role. I don't think this is the right situation because they're so deep there and so talented. But I think that guy's pretty good. And Justin Jones is really the first time I got a chance to see him run. And I same thing with him. I think that he could be helpful. I just don't think that I don't think they will this
Yeah.
year for sure because barring crazy injuries. But because I think that that the top guys are just better right now, and
Yeah.
I thought we saw a few glimpses of Dwayne McBride, what he's capable of. He didn't break loose, but they're just the top 3 or 4 guys. I mean, and you're looking at a position so deep. I guess Larry Wooden, I guess it is back at running back.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at a deep position, that's deep enough that he can't get in the game,
Right.
and he's good.
Yeah.
And Lucius Stanley, doesn't get a lot of, doesn't get a whole lot of carries, and he's good.
Right.
And we didn't see Whirling Pollock yesterday, which I was.
Yeah, I was looking
disappointed
forward
with.
to seeing him. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't dressed, so he's banged up again. I'm not sure what his what's going on with him, but if he can ever get healthy or stay healthy, he's going to be a guy that's going to have to get some spot time and do some particular things with him. He's not a guy that's going to be out there durability wise. He can't. He's certainly not a guy you can have out there a lot. I don't. Apparently, but he's you got to find ways if he's healthy to try to get a few touches and get him on the perimeter there and you'll see what he can do out there in space. So they just got a lot of guys, and it's just going to be hard to get down to those guys. But it's always good to know that you have them there if you need them.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, as far as special teams go, I did notice, on the return game that they had Starling Thomas returning kicks, and also they put Ryan Davis out there a little bit to catch punts and return kicks. So maybe that's the direction they're going towards, having one of them return it. I think Starling Thomas was the one that dropped that one. I can't remember if it was a kickoff or if it was.
Ryan Davis dropped his first
So it's Davis,
to him.
right.
Yeah. Which I fortunately I didn't, but I was getting ready to stay on. Before they kicked it, that because Ryan Davis, I think, is going to be your first punt returner. I think that's kind of the direction that they're leaning toward.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to say, before the kick, one reason he's back there is because he catches everything, and then he dropped the first one, but he made a really nice over the shoulder one later.
Yes,
but no, I think he's going to be. He reminds me as a punt returner. A lot like a little bit like Colin Lisa was. Colin Lisa was when he was back there in 17 and in 18, I think both years. He caught everything. That was his strength. His strength was that if it's kicked, he's going to catch it.
Right.
And that's big. That's big. That's one thing that at times I don't think Myron Mitchell was great at. Not,
Yeah.
and, if he got there, of course, he was going to catch. He didn't drop punts, um, but you got to. There was too many times that in my opinion, that right when Myron Mitchell didn't quite get there and the ball rolled, another 20 yards or 15, 10, whatever, you
Yeah.
know, and I think that's one thing that Colin Lisa was great at. I mean, there was, he just very, very few punts hit the ground, and rolled.
And
So,
remember, they had put Lisa in because Andre Wilson had some issues with
right.
muffin punts too.
Right,
So
exactly. Yeah, and Andre Wilson was a really good. I mean,
yes.
he was a really good punt returner when he got his hands on the ball. But I think Lisa was just that solid catching the ball.
Yeah.
And for old time guys, not old time, but for people that can think back to like their 2008, 9, that year, there was, Jimmy Mitchell. There was a running back
Yeah.
named Jim Mitchell that was a punt returner, and that was him. He caught. Jim Mitchell was great because he caught the ball every time, and he ran straight ahead. So if it was supposed to get, if it was blocked to where he could get 7 yards, he got 7 yards. If it was blocked to get where he get 50, he didn't. There was not a whole lot of dynamic about him,
but it was a sure thing. Yeah.
But right, but you don't lose yardage because you're not getting to the ball, or you're trying to, you're trying to make this spectacular happen, and you run 20 yards back to try to get around the defense, and they end up tripping you up, and you lose a bunch of yards. I think that's a lot what Colin Lisa was great about when he was returning punts.
Mm-hmm.
He was great about getting it and getting upfield quick. And he was quick enough where he could break some stuff too. But and really I thought Andre Wilson was like that too. Andre Wilson didn't do a lot of running backwards and things like that. I think.
Hey, don't bring up the Texas A&M game.
Well, no, yeah, but that was a lot of kick returns. Yeah,
I know.
He had a bad day. He had a bad day. But
right.
But I think Starling Thomas is one of those guys as good as he is, as fast as he is, where he's going to try to make a big play every time. So he might be the kind of guy that occasionally runs backwards to go forwards. And
right.
So I think Ryan Davis, but I think either of those guys you're gonna feel comfortable with, and I think the kick return guys are going to be pretty dynamic, including Starling Thomas. I think Starling Thomas is probably a better kick returner than he is a punt returner.
Yeah,
but I think they're going to be solid there. And I really thought, one thing that jumped out, I thought Kyle Greenwell really punted the ball well yesterday.
He had some great kicks. Yeah. Great punts.
I mean, now, obviously there's not the pressure on you that you get during the game, and things like that. But I really thought he punted the ball well, and he's gotten so much better every year.
Yeah.
I expect him to be an all-conference candidate. And this conference always has great punters.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why, why it is, but I mean, there's always great punters in this conference. So, winning and kickers too, and, winning all conference kicker and punters is always tough in this conference. And but I expect Greenwell to be one of those guys, but at the end of the year, that's one of the top 3 candidates probably for all conference.
And there was one punt in particular that Greenwell had. I think Starling Thomas was back receiving it, and he had let it go over his head, which is almost pretty a big no-no. But he had Greenwell angled that ball where it hit like the 8-yard line or so, and he had rolled out to the right and just hit the pylon. Man, I thought that it was going to be but
that was a great kick.
See how they. We need to get Trey Ragland on one of these days. I just don't see how they do that, because I really don't know, like, with the ball, how it's shaped like that, and how do you get it to where, it rolls out like that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's good. We should get Trey on and have him talk about it, because that I mean, guys that can do that. There was a guy at Rice a couple of years ago, Jack Fox. I think his name was Jack. Fox was his last name. I think it was Jack Fox. That there was one of the most amazing guys I've ever seen doing that. I mean, that guy could. I mean, he. It's like every punt he had was inside the 5-yard line.
Whew.
and it was always, like it would be bouncing toward the end zone. You think it's a touchback, and it would take this crazy
We,
right turn or left turn, whichever way it was kicking, and go out of
yeah.
bounds. It's like, what? How in the world does he do that? And
Right.
I know there's an art to it, and there's and the same thing about having balls check up, and just stop,
Yeah.
or bounce backwards, and but that would be fun to have Trey on to kind of talk about the art of that, and
Yeah.
kind of how you develop that, because it's you don't. I mean, Trey talks about it a lot on our broadcast, and he's absolutely right. Is those are hidden yards, and hidden yards that you're never going to see in the stat book, and you're never going to, unless even if you're watching, sometimes you don't pay attention to it.
Right.
But when you have a guy that can really pin an offense back, inside the 20 every time, every time he gets an opportunity to do that, and even even better inside the 10 or 5, that just there's so much that just causes so much in change in a game. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just when you can do that, because starting at the 20, I mean, I kind of look back to plenty of times where mistakes are made in the end zone, or mistakes are made, whether it be a safety or whatever,
Yeah.
um, where and it was all caused by a guy pinning it deep, pinning
Yep.
you deep, and so it's those hidden yards are huge in the game. And again, you never see them in a box score.
You
You
don't.
can't, and but other than the stat with the punter that says inside the 20. I
The
think they only
20. Yeah.
think it only says 20. And
It
but
does.
starting at the 20 and starting at the 1 or 2, but that's entirely different things there.
Yes. Well, punters and kickers in general definitely deserve more respect than what they get.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, no doubt.
Well,
And
that being said, though, I hope we don't have to punt a lot.
no, I mean, I would rather Kyle Greenwell doesn't have any all conference chance
Yes.
because he doesn't have enough kicks.
Yes.
I mean, that would be tremendous. And nothing against Kyle Greenwell, but I'm sure he'd take that. That
Yes.
would be tremendous. You'd love to see, you'd love to see him not out there at all. But when he's out there, he needs to be a weapon, and I think he will be this year.
Yes. Now, as we talked about this episode, the defensive line definitely stood out on really the ones, twos, and threes looked really good across the board. The second string and third string offensive line. Now, granted, these guys are young. A lot of them are young, just freshmen and sophomores. But there were a couple of holding penalties, false starts. I don't know if those were snap infractions. We talked a little bit after the game, Steve. But
Mm-hmm.
out of the first team, I mean, I thought the offensive line. Well, obviously the defensive line was in the backfield a lot, but I mean, this is going to be, I think, definitely the best offensive line in Conference USA, and if not, one of the best offensive lines in the group of 5. But I mean, I like what I saw, other than, our defensive line is very deep and talented, but I thought they did good.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. I mean, I thought there were. I do think there was way too many holding calls.
Yeah.
For all the way through. I think one thing that you kind of lose in games like this, in situations like this, is the defense has played so much against this offense.
Yeah.
They know what's coming a lot of times. They can they see. It's
Right.
different when you line up against somebody who you only has film on you and they really hadn't seen you across the line of scrimmage.
Right.
It's a little different. I didn't think the offensive line played great. I thought they really, that first drive I was really impressed with the first drive. I thought they,
Yeah, pass coverage was good.
yeah, I mean, I thought the protection
Pass
was good.
protection. Yeah, sorry.
The protection was good. I thought, they opened some holes,
Right.
really moved it down well, kind of won the line of scrimmage. I thought in that first drive, until the end there, until they held the field goal. But they're okay. I mean, that's I don't really. No matter what happened yesterday, personally, in my opinion, I have zero worries about the offensive line going into the season. I mean, zero. I mean, the only worry what I would have is if they have just this crazy rash of injuries in fall camp. If all of a sudden, 4 guys go down, then you're like, oh boy, there's some trouble here. Other than that, I mean, you're still 7 or 8 quality depth. Sidney Wells didn't play this spring, or did play. He wasn't out there yesterday. I don't think he's played this spring. So you had one guy that wasn't out there, but you had other guys getting a chance to get their opportunity. So I have, like I say, there's zero worries about where the offensive line is right now.
Yes. And, kind of going back, we hit on it a little bit, but it was great to see, Kelly Sanders looked really good. Justin Thomas looked really good. Anything else on those guys or anybody that we might have missed?
I don't know. I think everybody else was solid. I don't think that, without watching the film or whatever, I didn't see the linebackers stand out a lot, but a lot
they didn't do a whole lot though.
No, I don't think they played poorly. I mean, I just think it was dominating so much up front. Maybe they didn't get that much of a chance to do it.
Right.
Deshaun Oliver was with that starting group. I thought Charlie Benton made a couple plays that looked, Chris Mole like. He had one tackle in the backfield where he's back there real quick. So I was pleased to see that. It looked like they moved. Jalen Rayham was playing an inside with actually lined up next to Will Connor, who they lined up next to each other at Thompson High School. So that was kind of fun to watch, and I think that I hope Jalen Rayham finds a role in there.
Yeah. Did we mention Jacob Batts earlier? I don't think we.
Yeah, Jacob Batts was a guy who made a couple really nice plays. I couldn't tell you thing one about Jacob Batts. Never heard of him until yesterday.
Same.
And he made a couple plays in there. And, that's what's great about things like this. Guys make plays, and you quickly go to your roster and go, well, okay, that's who that is.
Right.
But yeah, I thought he made a couple plays. Looked like I don't think Tyjon Turner. I'm not sure he played at all. I never saw him really in there. He was in uniform, but it looked like Chris Mole was playing that star linebacker. When I spotted him, he was playing the star linebacker, and it was which is a role that he's played before and was really good at. I don't know that you take part of that might have been because Tyjon Turner was out. Maybe he was dinged up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I still think he's your star linebacker when the season starts.
Right.
But Mole seemed comfortable. Obviously, didn't jump out at you. But I thought the safeties played well. Corners, I didn't see Troy Young out there. I don't know if he was in uniform or not. I never really spotted him, but I thought that corners played okay, or played fine, and
right.
I mean it was solid throughout. I just think it was so dominated by the guys up front. I mean, just by the defensive front that you almost didn't get a chance to see the other guys make a whole lot of plays, but. Overall, I mean, obviously the defense was great. There was nothing that you could point at and go, man, they didn't do well there, because they did well throughout.
Right. And going back to that fumble that Fairbanks caused on Witherspoon, Damon Miller had the recovery on that, so it was good to see him get that fumble recovery.
Well, and it was good to see his twin, Damian Miller, his twin brother, was out there playing safety too during the game, so it's good to see him back. From injury. He had a knee injury that missed all last year, and so it was good to have him back. And I mean, like we've said it before, and yesterday really showed it, is the depth at all these positions really is just it's almost stunning in a little bit. And I do think you're going to see a lot of that in college football, just because with the numbers, with the guys coming back and are allowed to come back, and I think you're going to see a lot of that, but the numbers are just stunning. I mean, the depth is stunning.
Yes.
And, it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be hard on these coaches figured out a rotation, because you've got so many guys, that you want to get in there and really have earned a chance to be in there. And it's going to be hard to get them all in there because you just have, you're just so deep.
Hey, it's a good problem to have.
Oh man, I take that problem all day long, because especially when, injuries happen.
Yes.
And then also in these September games, and really heck around here in October too, with as hot as it is at these games, you need depth. And so yeah, it's a great problem to have, but my goodness, it's just there's guys everywhere.
Yes. Well, Steve, was there anything else that we didn't discuss that we need to let our listeners know? I feel like we've hit on pretty much everything.
No, I mean, I think we got everything. I mean, it's obviously it's kind of bittersweet walking out of Legion Field for what we think is the last time, and that was kind of weird.
Hey, I saw somebody make a tweet that they're gonna miss Legion Field.
Well, I don't know who would say that, because I mean, hey, there's something about Legion Field that just kind of gets you. Now with me, I mean, it goes back to being a child and going there for Alabama games. I've been in an Auburn game there,
right?
Went to bowl games there. Saw high school games there. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was I guess I was a freshman. Our high school played in the semifinals in Legion Field, maybe quarterfinals in Legion Field. Semi-court, I can't remember what it was. Actually, I think I was in 8th grade, and I went to Grissom High School, and we played a semifinal game there and won. And I was there that night, and so there was it's a great place. I mean, it really is, and obviously it's crumbled. But part of what I love about it is I mean, one of my favorite memories of all time at Legion Field was when I was covering, I was covering the team, and it was during Neil Callaway. I don't remember what year it was, and they had, UAB had lost to somebody, and I went down there and did the interviews, and we did the interview down there by the room right by the locker room, and came back up, and I was starting to write. It was a late game, so I was in a hurry, and my phone rings, and I look down, and it's Callaway, because I can see the number. It's Callaway. I'm like, what in the world? Like, I'm thinking, did I ask a question that made him mad, and he wants to yell at me, or what is this? Because I mean, that never happens. Coach doesn't call you right after you leave the press conference unless he's mad at you,
especially coming off a loss too.
So I answered the phone, and I'll never forget, he didn't even say hello, or he didn't even say whatever. I pick up the phone and I go, "Hey, what's up, Neil?" And he goes, "We ain't got no damn hot water in here." He goes again, "We ain't got no hot water. You need to write that. I'm tired of this." And he had kind of told me before it happened, but it was off the record. I couldn't write it. Yeah. And I said, all right. I said, "You gonna be quoted on it?" He goes, "You darn right, I'm quoted on it. I'm tired of not having hot water here." So I got to write in my little notebook there about not having hot water, and it was just kind of a bizarre moment. Wow, which is so fitting into what Legion Field is. I mean, Legion Field it's a bizarre place in your memory, because there's so many special things that happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is Legion Field's been a lot to UAB. I mean, it's been a great place, and it's been a curse almost at the same time. Because you don't fit into it. The crowds look, the same crowd that goes to. I mean, here's another thing that kind of. I remember when the first year I covered UAB, it was 2005. Mm-hmm. Go to cover. They played Tennessee first, and then they played at Troy. Okay, go to Troy, and in their stadium, which fit what they belong. Fit. Mm-hmm. And there was probably 19,000 fans there. Okay, so everybody's talking about how great the crowd was, and boy, this is really exciting, and a nice crowd here. So the next game, UAB plays Rice, or I think it was Rice, mm-hmm. and in Legion Field. So it's my first game in Legion Field, and there's a crowd of about 18,000 And all anybody talked about was there was nobody there. Nobody there. This crowd stinks. I can't believe nobody's here at the game.
UAB has always fought that.
Well, and I'm like, wait a minute now. There was
Yeah.
19,000 people last week, and you talked about how great the crowd was, and there was 18,000 this week, and you talk about how bad it is, and it's all about fitting into your stadium. I mean, 19,000 in a stadium that seats 25 or 30 looks pretty good. 18,000 in one that seats 80 looks terrible.
Right.
So that's been, obviously it's going to be nice to get in a place that you fit in better, and the crowds obviously are better now. Or once we get through this COVID.
Yes.
But you can't get past a lot of times that long before me, UAB's played there a long time and had a lot of special memories, and I can even I can think of the Hail Mary to Jackie Williams, beating Southern Miss for the Hiram Atwater's interception that sealed the Southern Miss game.
Yes.
Every game, the winning streak since since the return and the block kick and there's just so many great, you go back to 2006 when Chris Felder forced the fumble and East Carolina's going in to win the game late in the game, and he knocks the ball away and they recover in end zone and win the game, and just so many special moments. It's easy to bash Legion Field because there's a lot of it, but you can't forget, the good's got to go with the bad, and they both make it what it is.
Right.
And they both, there's good and bad. You put them together, and that's what it is. Now, even though I did tweet yesterday that I'm gonna miss it a little bit, almost can't sleep thinking about getting into protective, because you go by there and it looks so nice already, and it's not even, it's still, they're still not through with it, and you still get chills looking at it, how nice it is. So, obviously saying you're going to miss it a little bit is truthful. But man, just thinking about getting into that new place, to protective is, it's gonna be a special place, and it changes. It's a game. It's a program changer. Program enhancer. Because the program is in a very good position where it's at right now, but it just enhances and can take you to another level, and that's what's great about it.
Hey, and American Conference, if you're listening.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to look at I've been to several of those American Conference stadiums, and I'd have to look at the list of the schools, but I can't imagine, off the top of my head, I don't know that there's many, if any, places in that conference that have a more special place than this.
No.
Or, better stadium than this. I'd have to look and see. Just off the top of my head, it's going to be a lot nicer than UCF.
Yeah.
A lot nicer than Tulane.
Definitely.
A lot nicer than Tulsa. Tulsa's not, is not a very nice place. I've been there several times. I can't imagine. Cincinnati, I love that place. I think that's a kind of a unique place.
Greenville, East Carolina, I've heard is pretty good.
It's nice. Yeah, they've built it up over the years. It's nice. I don't know if it's this nice.
No.
It's going to be a darn sight nicer than the Liberty Bowl.
Yeah.
Now I love SMU Stadium. I think that's a pretty nice place. I think the new Houston. Last time I was in Houston, it was still the old Robertson Stadium, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
I think Navy's got a nice stadium, but USF plays in the South Florida plays in the the Bucks,
where Tampa Bay plays,
so they play in a really nice place, but they don't really fit in there.
Nope.
It's a huge place that they don't fit in. So this fits in. You go down G5 and or whatever it's called, the
group of five,
group of five, whatever it is. You go down there and there's not gonna be many places like this.
No.
It's a brand new stadium that they've, from what it sure looks like, they've covered all the bells and whistles, and or will cover all the bells and whistles. And I just don't know that there's many places like this now. And
Right.
but again, there's just so much history at Legion Field that part of you has to overlook the bad and feel a little bit sad about leaving.
Yeah.
Happy and sad at the same time. More happy than sad, but I have
Yes.
just a little bit sad there.
Right. It was bittersweet. And just one last thing on that. It was bittersweet leaving the old gray lady one more time. However, Steve, when I got back to the house and checked my mail yesterday, I had a letter in the mail from UAB with my seat selection appointment time for protective.
Oh,
And though,
sweet.
hey, that sadness went away real quick. But
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. And at that point, all you got to do is look at that the 3D model they put out to show. All you got to do is start going through that and looking at those views and thinking, okay, all right, I feel better. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel better. It's like anything, the progress is good. But progress and change is not always easy, because
Right.
there's you want to sort of hold on to the past a little bit. But just a little bit. I mean, like, you're right. When you get an email like that about protective, and
Yes.
it's got to be a special place, and look forward to seeing those memories made there.
Yes, definitely great things ahead for UAB. Now, before we wrap up, we did have some significant basketball program news, of course, right after we recorded our last episode. But Andy Kennedy got a contract extension that goes through the 2026 to 2027 season. Definitely great to see that, hopefully, he's going to be around for a long time, but that's great to go ahead and give him that extension and raise. But not only that, guys, but the trustees gave the final approval on the go-ahead for the basketball practice facility. And what this means for the basketball program, to go along with the, protective stadium for the football program, UAB's athletic program is just trending in the right direction. And these are exciting times for, UAB. And this is great, whenever conference realignment happens. We know it's going to happen at some point. But this puts UAB in a good situation for that. Now, of course, you can argue that, hey, we're in Conference USA. We need to improve Conference USA. But this is just great for UAB as an athletic program.
Oh, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, I think, the first thing with the contract, I've always been sort of against, knee-jerk extensions and things like that. I mean, I've always just thought, like, because a lot of times if you knee-jerk a extension when they actually earn it,
right,
you can't really do it because you've already done it, but in this case, this wasn't a knee jerk. I mean, I think in this case, this was you saw what Andy Kennedy and his staff and
in a COVID year
did in a year that was almost impossible.
Right.
With the roster that wasn't what he wanted,
right.
and they did that. And not what he wanted. I mean, just a roster that didn't fit his needs. And to do that, I mean, this I think he showed quickly. I mean, he showed immediately that he's a guy that can take this program back up. And so I love that. I mean, I love what they did there. And the practice facility stuff it's been needed for so long, and
yes,
it's just it's going to help so much recruiting. It's going to be a great place. It's going to help develop. I think a lot of times that you don't think about this, but even just the individual extra work the guys want to do, there's times where if you have a facility that if you don't have a practice facility, the arena might be being used for something else,
right.
whether it be volleyball,
yep,
whether it be, graduation, whether it be,
right.
a concert or, just anything depending on where you're at. And, a guy might say, or a women's player or a men's player might say, man, I want to go get some extra shots up tonight, but I can't because, this gives you the opportunity to do that. This gives you, it's not just, your official type practices and things where you don't have to any conflict. It's your unofficial stuff, or stuff that I want to get in some extra work.
Right.
And that's, that's really big. That's, it just takes you. And then of course, to be able to take recruits through, facilities where it shows that, that the university, and the trustees care about the program.
Right.
That really means the world in recruiting too. So, and bringing new guys or new players in. So, I think for the men's and the women's program, this is, absolutely, another thing, like we said about protective, it's just kind of a program changer.
Yep.
So it was a big day. It was a big day for both those things to happen. For the men's program, I'm just really excited to see the future. And then with we've talked before about just the look of the roster for next year already.
Yes.
Without a couple pieces added, and it's exciting to think where this program's going and where the athletic program's going.
Yes, definitely. Well, all right, guys, make sure if you haven't hit the subscribe button, hit that subscribe button so you can make sure that you don't miss another episode of our podcast, the Blazer Victory Podcast, and just help us spread the word and tell other UAB fans about our podcast. And if you're not following us on Twitter, you can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/BlazerPod. But on that note, guys, we'll see you guys next time, and go Blazers.